Alright, good morning. Today we are going to look a little bit into Ferpa. And so you may be thinking about right now, you maybe heard of it, maybe you haven't heard of it. You're saying, why does this sound like a funny word? And what does it sound, or what does it mean? So we're going to look a little bit into the definition of it, how it pertains to us as a school, and how you as an educator need to follow these guidelines. So FERPA is the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. It is a federal law that protects the privacy of students' education records maintained by or on the behalf of educational agencies or institutions. These acts kind of help the parents maintain those rights of their children's education records, that they do not get into those wrong hands. And so we talk about those educational records. What is an education record? An education record can be a couple different things, and here are some examples. It can be private records a teacher makes during the course of teaching, meant for the teacher's private use as a memory aid. Law enforcement or campus security records created and maintained solely for law enforcement reasons. Employment records, alumni records, and then also grades on peer-graded papers before they are recorded. So these are just a few examples of what education records are. And then you might look and see, then really, who does FERPA pertain to? Well, FERPA pertains to any schools that receive federal funds. So in the United States, that's the majority of schools. So the majority of these schools have to follow that. Especially if you follow the U.S. Patriot Act or the No Child Left Behind Act, these kind of have helped change the way that FERPA has been implemented, and especially with the use of technology now too. Paying close attention are some ways that schools may unintentionally know that they're breaking the law. One is with vendors. So these vendors could be with educational software. Schools are responsible for what their vendors do with the data. So even if these vendors, actually their data isn't too private, that's on the school. That's the school's fault. They need to look into that. So that's why it's always important on the technology side when the technology director doesn't like you just downloading any app that you want to use. They need to look into it to make sure it's safe. Another is to know when the records to release them or to withhold them. Parents own the rights to their child until the child turns 18, or when that child goes to a post-secondary institution. Then that's when that records can be released. So be cautious who you tell who. So as educators, you want to make sure on social media, gossiping in the teacher's lounge, that you don't disclose any inappropriate information about a student that could be then distributed further and further down the line, which would make their kind of information known to the public. 8 ways to ensure that our school is being compliant with FERPA is one, like we're doing now, we're raising FERPA awareness. We're talking about it. We're educating. We're letting you know what to-dos and don'ts of FERPA are. Number 2 is confirm that FERPA applies to you. In our situation, it does. Number 3, know the rights, protections, and expectations. 4, choose a compliant vendor. 5, train all your school employees. Again, what we're doing here. 6, implement compliant policies and procedures. 7, encrypt files and emails. And number 8, implement other prevention tools. These are things we can look down and have further training down the line. And another big topic that's kind of been in the news the last couple of years is dealing with ICE. And being a federal entity there, do they have the right just to come in and for us to release these records to the feds? The answer is no. They can't just come in asking for this information for like immigration laws or whatever regulations. They need to be able to come in and identify on a legal basis requests for these through either like a warrant or a judge-signed paper. They cannot just come in and grab these. Again, it needs to be federal, some kind of document showing that they have the ability to then go get those records. And a call for action here, with the uptick in technology happening in schools, out of schools, some have been advocating for FERPA to be looked at and to see how they pertain to technology itself and how we can then adjust those policies to make sure that the student data is safe. It says, as of September 2019, at least 10 school districts have been in the news for their own ransomware attacks, and the U.S. Department of Education reports that hundreds of educational data breaches occur annually. That's crazy to think about when all of a sudden our kids' information can just be out there, just in the open. And the FERPA has been altered twice since it was passed in the 1970s, creating expectations to share information and student records with vendors without parent consent. So that may not be something that we like. And another one of those now is we have security cameras everywhere. What are the security cameras? What are their rights? And who can deal with them? In FERPA, they have the ability for schools to have their own security units to monitor the safety and security in around school campuses. These can be dealt with what they call law enforcement units. A lot more people probably may know those in the schools as the SRO. They are designated to be the handlers of those security cameras and to enforce the local laws that there are. And then whether when you're directing and recording a teacher, recording a project, or just security cameras, there are different factors that go into what you can and can't do. So it's whether recording is used for disciplinary actions, which involve the students, whether the recording depicts an activity that would be reasonably result in the use of disciplinary action, and whether the school intends to make a specific student the focus of the recording, and whether the content contains personally identifiable information from a student's education record. Betsy DeVos is the Secretary of Education, and she had a quote that said, "FERPA is an area where widespread confusion remains." And this clarification will give local schools, leaders, and law enforcement the tools they need to protect student privacy while ensuring the health and safety of students and others in the school community. FERPA is something really big. There's so many zigzags here going down a rabbit hole. So we can't talk it all about right now. So what I want to do is I want to be able to give you some more information. Where can you go and look for different information on FERPA about the regulations and whatnot? One place is the PTAC. The U.S. Department of Education established the Privacy Technical Assistance Center. That's kind of a one-stop shop for educators to go learn about data privacy, confidentiality, and security practices. So down here we have a link to that. You have the ability, I'll share this to everybody after, to click that link and follow up with that. And then also, there is a 37-question FAQ document that helps clarify some of the responsibilities of the schools and districts. Again, feel free to look through these. Another link there that you can go check it out so you can be well educated on this and be able to then help teachers who don't understand, be new teachers, and see just to make sure that we are getting everything covered in the school when it comes to student privacy.